The second subtopic we are going to talk about is the issues of women's self-determination in society. I would like to introduce the name of the female director, Jeon Go-woon. She was born in 1985. Jeon Go-woon is an actress, screenwriter, a film director. Her career began in 2012. Her preferred genres science fiction, thriller, fantasy, comedy, melodrama, crime, detective, sports. Jeon Go-woon's recent films include Microhabitat 2018 and Persona 2019. Jeon Go-woon's film Little Princess was released in English-speaking countries under the title Microhabitat. The content of the film is an artistic form conveys the situation of the main character's forced choice between freedom, self-determination, and social standards imposed on modern youth, and especially women, in the conditions of neoliberal capitalism. The film's protagonist, a 30-year-old housekeeper named Miso, lives in a tiny apartment in Seoul and divides all the money she makes between her vices, alcohol and cigarettes and necessity, drugs and rent. She is not rich, but quite happy in her usual life. However, faced with rising house prices, she must choose how to spend her income, choosing to drink and smoke instead of paying for a room. Miso makes a list of former friends she once performed with in a band that she could stay with for a while. As Miso moves from one house to another, one of the key problems of the manifestation of neoliberal capitalism in South Korea is gradually highlighted in front of the audience, the repressive social system of society. Every situation Miso finds herself in is depicted with humor and extreme exaggeration, yet conveys a sense of the harsh realities of modern life. An illustrative example is Miso's first visit to a former member of the musical group Moon Young, who works in a large company. When meeting, a friend says that she needs to work as hard as possible in order to get an even better job and achieve greater professional success. However, she has to put herself on intravenous drip right in front of Miso due to overexertion at work. To the Russian audience, such a scene seems excessively harsh, but in Korean companies, this is not particularly surprising. The film also characterizes the influence of family stereotypes that put pressure on a person. Miso's other friend, a former keyboard player, also she welcomes her warmly and allows her to spend the night at her house, is unhappy in her marriage. She feels trapped by her husband and mother-in-law, who constantly demand that she shut up and cook. Another female character, a former guitarist, has become a mother and cannot hide her displeasure about this. She portrays herself as a happy wife and mother, but cheerfully exclaiming the birth of a child is the only suffering in a person's life. She does not have time to correct the reservation made and replace the word suffering with blessing. It is no better for the male characters. One of them is so traumatized by the shame and financial burden of his divorce that he cannot get out of his depression, constantly crying and informing Miso that he is allergic for women. For all her resistance to social norms, Miso had to call him biologically male but psychologically female. The next male hero was under pressure from his obsessed mother, who intended to marry him to Miso at all costs. The mother's control over her son's romantic life is realized in one of the film's most comedic yet tragic scenes. The mother arranges a family performance in front of Miso, during which all family members play musical instruments, and she herself performs a vocal piece. At the same time, the expression on her face betrays a plea for an escape from ostentatious family paradise. Against the backdrop of all these characters who find themselves under pressure from the social institutions of work and family, Miso remains the only heroine in the film who remains true to herself and the ideals of her youth. After trading her room for a shot of whiskey and a pack of cigarettes, Miso finds herself outside with a suitcase full of things. Miso's journey paradoxically casts doubt on the meaning of the word accommodation. On the one hand, having your own home means being able to survive in the modern world. In the same time, in the current conditions, many young people, even those who have a regular income, find it difficult to buy at least a tiny apartment. In Korea, they talk about the sampo generation, that is the generation of people who, due to lack of housing, are forced to give up three key things: love, marriage, and children. On the other hand, moving along with Miso through the homes of the former members of the musical group, we as viewers think about the value of human life measured by the economic value of housing and ask ourselves, is it worth giving up familiar things in order to conform the stereotypes and buy a house? Miso chooses a small but quite definite happiness to live a life that is pleasant to her. A glass of whiskey and a pack of cigarettes are enough for her, which, according to most, does more harm than good. In this context, the question of Miso's former friend, do you still smoke, sounds like haven't you grown up yet? Miso's boyfriend, Han Sol, donates blood for free tickets to invite her to the movies. At first, he shares her love's poverty, giving up his dream to become a web cartoonist. However, then, in order to earn money to buy their common house, he leaves to work in Saudi Arabia, where the salary is much higher. In Miso's relationship with her boyfriend, we see a manifestation of the idea of post-love, when the inability of lovers to reunite dictates to everyone their own path of self-determination. The post-feminist culture develops against feminist politics and emphasizes the education of women and girls, their professionalization, freedom of choice with respect for work, home, and parental work, as well as physical and sexual rights and opportunities. The ending of the film, Microhabitat, is similar to one of the storyline of the film House of Hummingbird. Both the heroines of Miso and the Chinese teacher, being women, are not subject to mass stereotypical social representations, die. Which once again testifies to the vitality and immutability of social practices and institutions based on the born centuries-old ways of conservatism and patriarchy.